Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. This is episode 16, really flying through these. This is Thursday, August 17th, a.k.a. schedule release day for the NBA. I think it's a national holiday for Don, one of his favorites.
Matt, I think when you announced episode number 16, I think we should start a new tradition. Jersey number that pops into mind, 16.
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana.
I was going to say Joe Montana too, but I'm going to try and think of another one just so I don't.
I can't even think
everyone.
of a baseball number.
16?
Can you guys? Off the top of your head?
I'm trying to think of a basketball number, 16. Who's the first basketball 16 that comes to mind?
Nobody.
There's no good 16. 16's a bad number.
I can't think of anybody.
I can't either.
Joe Montana. Let's just go with Joe Montana.
I think
I think that's a good idea, though.
But I think when we get to 17, 18, we get on down the road, it's going to be some debate.
I can give you 18.
Oh, yeah.
I can give you 18 right now.
I bet you can.
He was all right.
Well, we got the NBA schedule hot off the presses, released just about 45 minutes ago. Some interesting details on that. We got Cowboys leaving Oxnard after 3 weeks in California. Main takeaways from that, and as they lead into their second preseason game, as always, the soothing sounds of Don Harris and Chuck McGetinick along with me. Try not to make your ears bleed here. So we got the Spurs schedule. Don, out about 45 minutes ago, what's your main takeaway from the Spurs schedule being released?
My main takeaway is the amount of television games with Wembanyama. Spurs are back in the national spotlight. They've had one each of the last 2 seasons, so 2 in 2 years, and now they have 19, 11 on ESPN and TNT. So that's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two, and I'm going to have to call the Spurs out on this. The world champion Denver Nuggets come to San Antonio twice, and their first trip is an Austin Moody Center game.
Yeah.
Which means Spurs fans only get to see the world champions once in San Antonio, and it's the last game of the season. I don't know, man. I think that's a slight to Spurs fans. I don't like it. There's something about Austin I don't like. I get why they're doing it, but, send them an OKC in the middle of the year.
Well, I mean, they did them dirty last year. The last 2 games of the season, I thought, were in the Moody Center, and nobody played.
Yeah.
Literally nobody played. Like they were 140 to 130, and nobody played.
They didn't play all year.
That's fair.
It's not like the Nuggets are not coming here, though. That's kind of the way I look at it, right?
They are, but this last game of the year.
Right. That might be for, a playoff spot. Or
You might not even get
maybe.
Wemby. You might not even get Wemby in that game. I mean, if...
Well, that's a whole nother question.
We don't know.
Say for maybe a future podcast.
All right, so a couple of...
But here's another thing. It's South by Southwest during those 2 games. South by Southwest in Austin is in March. March 8th through the 16th, I think. So one of those
It'll be the
games-
day after then because the...
Yeah, but it's why everybody's in town. It's why all those people who are in town for South by Southwest, that means it'll drive up the ticket prices in Austin. I get it, but...
Yeah.
I don't know.
So they're going to... Spurs are going to kick off the season against Dallas. Luka is coming to town on ESPN. That'll be on October 25th, day after my birthday. Houston is going to be in town 2 nights after that, so we're going to get the Texas rivalries out of the way really early on. Got 2 back-to-back games against the Suns after that. The main takeaway for me, 7
In Phoenix.
Yeah, in Phoenix, and then you got 2 games against Phoenix in March here at home. A couple of main takeaways for me, they have 7 games early on, I think before December hits, that are nationally televised. Actually 7 by Thanksgiving pretty much. So it seems like they're trying to capitalize on Wemby mania early, and just in case they suck.
500, yeah.
Just in case the Spurs suck. What about you, Chuck?
I don't know. I'm just looking at the rodeo road trip. It's always fascinating to me, right? Start off in the southeast quadrant of the country with Miami and Orlando. Move your way up the coast for Brooklyn, into Canada, back into Texas, and then West Coast, Utah, man, that's a lot of traveling for them boys. Hope they're up for it.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
How big is the break? Is it a full week off?
Well, it's the
halfway?
7th through the 27th. So it's 9 games in 20 days?
Yeah, but a
21
whole
days?
week
They
off
get-
for the All-Star break,
Right.
probably somewhere. in between those.
It's in between Dallas and Sacramento. So they go Wednesday, February 14th, and then they come back Thursday at Sacramento. So, 7 days right in between. But still, the stretch right before that I thought was interesting too. Starting on January 26th, they're home to Portland, and then they have 6 games in 9 nights until the rodeo road trip. So they have 6. They play Portland, Minnesota, Washington, Orlando, New Orleans, Cleveland. Not exactly the murderer's row of teams, but still 6 games in 9 nights.
All at home?
All at home.
Yeah.
Still a tough schedule though. It's 6 and 9.
You're sleeping in your own bed. It's okay.
They're young.
They are young. It's like an AAU ball.
I
always look to see who's coming. The big names. When's LeBron coming for the first time? When's Giannis coming for the first time? Giannis and the Bucks are here mid-early. I mean, right after the New Year on January the 4th. And, I remember a couple years ago they played Milwaukee here and in Milwaukee, like the first 2 games out of the chute. So it's like you never saw Milwaukee after the first week of the season when you don't even know what you got. So I like Giannis here in January. Boston's New Year's Eve. So that's a good week with the 2 Eastern powers here.
Yeah, and then like I said, you got Phoenix, and they'll probably be way up the standings by March, but at least you'll probably get to see Booker and KD and Beal and all those guys. I'm trying to look real quickly at who else is here in March. You got Denver here in March, obviously up in Dallas. Or up in Austin. Got Dallas here in March. So a lot of good games. Golden State doesn't come here until March either, though. Like a lot of the games are just like backloaded with popular, really, really good Western teams.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll be good by then. Maybe they'll improve.
Maybe they'll be tanking by then. Who knows?
Never know.
So what does the schedule say to you guys about the Wemby effect? We talked about it, 19 televised games this year. What does it say to both of you?
Well, it means a lot because, I know in years past how frustrating it's been if you wanted to get a peek as to what these guys look like in a preseason game, but you just didn't want to go all the way down to, either the AT&T Center or to Houston or somewhere to watch these guys play. They were never on TV unless you could find the backhaul from the opposing team. It looks as though their preseason games are going to be on television as well. I would imagine there'd be a hell of a lot of interest for that. So would that have happened if Victor Wembanyama had not been here? Of course it wouldn't have. It would have been business as usual. So, I think that package is still, being bandied about between broadcast entities. So, at least if you don't go to a game, there's a good chance you can watch these guys as they get ready to play in the regular season. Then obviously you get to see what number 1 looks like in, silver and black.
And the other thing is that in-season tournament, they're the only team where 3 of their 4 games are televised by either ESPN or
TNT.
Or
not NBA TV. ESPN.
Yeah. So, obviously, those executives aren't dummies. They know that he's a huge, eyeballs on him. We don't know how great he's going to be yet, but there's interest.
It also leaves them a lot of room later in the season. There's a stretch from the 26th of January until mid-March where there's no games on national TV, and they could very easily be flexed in, or they could have 25. If they're good, they could have 25 games on national TV.
Yeah,
this year.
That's a good point because that's exactly why the NBA did what they did with this flex scheduling. It allows them to see who kind of the hot commodity is, and if Wembanyama and the Spurs are what everybody is saying they are at this point in the season, if that proves to be true, then you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to be on the tube a lot more.
I keep coming back to the quote from Jerry Jones a couple weeks ago. Is Zach? It's like if you build it, they will come. Every time there's a national TV schedule or a national TV game, it's to highlight your city. And so I just keep thinking about the eyes that are going to be on San Antonio this entire year, and not just on basketball, but every time ESPN comes here, they do a feature on like a taco stand or like a taqueria or something that has the Spurs mural or the Wemby mural or something like that. It's like all those eyeballs that are coming to San Antonio, I just think is inherently so good for the city, and it's actually kind of amazing.
Yeah, they've done studies. Those things are worth millions. When the Spurs were in the finals every year, the Chamber and those things, you can't put a price tag on how valuable that kind of exposure is for the city.
It's a doorstep for the city. It always has been. And, again, not like any of this is new. They went for a stretch, remember, where they were rubber stamp to make the postseason. It was just a matter of would they win the championship or not.
Right.
Yeah, 20 years of playoffs.
Yeah, and just 3 years of 21 seasons will make people forget really quickly, sadly, with our attention spans nowadays. How do you think that the Spurs are going to handle the press this year? I mean, obviously they have 19 nationally televised games. Those ones always get a little bit more access to players and whatnot. But, I mean, they were kind of quiet. Last year they kind of opened everything up a little bit more because they wanted the coverage, it seemed like. But how do you think they're going to handle Wemby allowances and, like, letting Wemby show his star power on all these nationally televised games?
I think they're going to do whatever Wemby wants to do. Tim Duncan didn't want to do media, so they shut him down once a week, once every 2 weeks. Wemby said to us at draft week, I want to be the best at everything, and that includes press conferences. I want to be out there. You know, I think his team too is going to be a little bit, I don't know, feel like they're handcuffed being in a small market. And so I think they're going to look for all opportunities. So when they're on national television and then Lisa Salters wants to do a sit down, you know, the day of the game I think he's going to be available. I think they're going to assign Jordan Hallenstein to be his PR guy. And he'll have his own guy like Jordan did.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the networks, it's a given, right? I mean, if the networks are putting money in your pocket, then they're obligated to do this stuff for the networks. That's only fair. I mean, they're business partners in this whole entity. What's going to happen when the season starts and guys like Don and I try to roll up? That remains to be seen. I mean, I think there's a suspicion that we might be going back to the old ways just so that there's a pace to the entire season. You know, how are they going to treat marketing him in their own department? You know, I don't know.
For people,
I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out because, I mean, that's the one thing. I don't know if they're going to let us know anytime soon or let us know before the season starts.
For people who don't know, how did the Spurs handle the media during their run of 20 years?
It was different. In
Yeah,
the
it
early
changed.
days, in the early days with David, Sean, and Avery, those guys were available every day. Almost one of the three was available every day, and sometimes all three were available every day.
Yeah, and you could get one-on-ones. Just go ask the player, hey, you got time to stop? Yeah. You want to do a CD review? Yep. Want to do
Whatever.
a letter segment?
Yeah. Tim's mailbag. Tim, that's the one thing Tim wanted to do was Tim's mailbag, so he did it. But again, Tim dictated what Tim wanted to do. And if he didn't want to talk, he didn't talk.
Yeah, but that's the kind of how things changed with Kawhi because like he wanted to do stuff and then the Spurs really didn't let him, did they?
No. Kawhi didn't want to do anything. Kawhi couldn't do anything. Kawhi can't talk.
I wouldn't say that.
I'll never forget.
You're such a hater.
No. I'll tell you. It was a lockout preseason. We didn't have any access to those guys. There was no preseason games. We didn't know these guys. We didn't meet these guys. There was no training camp. And all of a sudden, they thrown in, and like home game number 2, I'm on the court, 5, 6 o'clock, and they say, hey, how about our rookie, Kawhi Leonard? Will you want him for your 6 o'clock show? They bring him over. We're in a commercial break. We got about 4 minutes before the show. I said, hey, Kawhi, Don Harris, News 4 San Antonio. Nice to meet you. Hey, you like San Antonio so far? What do you want to talk about? We don't have to talk about basketball, man. What kind of music you listen to or something? Just basketball. Okay, I know this is going to be a bad live shot, right? So they come out and I said, I'm here with the San Antonio Spurs rookie, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi, welcome to San Antonio, man. I guess growing up a basketball fan, watching Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, it's got to be a thrill to play with these guys, right? Yeah. Question number 2. I cut it off so quickly, and I looked at Chris Davis, the PR guy, afterwards. I said, never again. Never again with this guy. And he didn't get any better.
Well,
Even as a finals MVP, he never got better.
I go back to what you said about when we first couple of podcasts that we did, and you're talking about how the Spurs have learned from what they did with Kawhi and how they kind of butted heads with Kawhi and Kawhi's people, and how they don't plan to do that with Wemby. And you think they've learned from what they learned with Kawhi. So that's why I'm asking about
I don't think that had
kind of
anything to do with media. I think that had to do with injury management, workout schedules, respecting the guy's own team. I think the Spurs were pretty pretty clear that our doctors will do your surgeries and our doctors will do that. I think if Wemby's has something like that happen and he wants to include his own physio guys or trainers, they've already hired his trainer. That was the first thing they did. His personal workout guy now works for the team, and he's working out the other guys too.
So if Wemby gets if we send in requests, just media in general, to get Wemby, and Wemby wants to do all this media, they're going to let him. Is what you're saying?
Yes, but he's not going to want to because his team has already said they're going to make him a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
He's turned down McDonald's, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get a Wemby's mailbag. Sponsored by Bob's Bail Bonds.
I mean, if he talks, hopefully he talks at least once a week. I mean, that's
I think he
my
will.
expectation.
Yeah, because they allow a couple guys at practice to talk every day that were there and all that stuff. So I would expect like LeBron talks everywhere all the time. Like LeBron talks after every game. He talks at every practice. He always does that stuff. And Wemby is going to be, or we project him to be on the same level, if not a little bit less, a little bit more, give or take, on LeBron's level. So that's the kind of access I think that people associate with a superstar.
And if he wants to do that, they'll let him do it. If he wants to be Tim Duncan and go once a week or once every month, there was letters to the league. We got to get Tim Duncan more. Media in this town, remember Mike Monroe from the Express News, complaining to the league. The league got on to the Spurs. Tim came out for a week or two and then went back to the way it was because he just didn't want to do it.
I just don't see them bringing him out every day. And if that's all anybody wants to talk about, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
How does the spotlight kind of play into that? Because obviously you have national attention on the Spurs again. You have national attention on Wemby and basically revolving solely around him. So how does national media wanting him to be available, whether that's a press conference that we're going to feed to them or whatever, play into his availability?
They just join us, after practice on a Tuesday morning. The French guys who are moving here, or they may embed a Brian Windhorst like they did with LeBron and ESPN. If they did something like that, they would just be in the group interview with us. They may get something additional off to the side. I think we've already seen what the Spurs are going to do with Wemby. It's not every day, but they were fair during all this draft stuff. They made him available, and 2 days later made him available again. And he wanted to talk about the Britney Spears thing. He initiated that thing. So I do think, though, after that month of the draft, he might be the one changing his mind. He might be the one who's like, I didn't realize this was going to be this much of a pain in my butt.
Yeah, again, I don't know. He seems like the kind of guy that if you asked him and he wanted to do it, that was just like with Tim. If you wanted to play video games with you, yeah, let's do it. You want to shoot that and make a story about that? Yeah, let's do it. I just don't want to be talking X's and O's every single day or talking about my personal life every single day. This is going to get old, and it might get old for him too at some point. He just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that is like Tim in that regard. It seems like if you wanted to talk about the weather every single day, Victor is the type of personality that doesn't mind putting himself out there. And I think to your point about the whole Britney Spears thing, could he have handled that any better? I don't think so.
No way.
He came out, my life is an open book. I'll tell you what happens. You can say what you want about me. I don't care. This was all news to me. I woke up to this, and I thought he handled it perfectly. And by handling it in the most humane way possible, it got diffused instantly.
Right. He will be accommodating, but he's not going to let it affect his time management. He's not going to do so much media that it's going to wear him out. He'll do media when he does media, and everybody will be there to do it. But he's not going to do 5 different one-on-ones every day.
I think he only needs to hang out with Jeremy Shohan every once a week, because I don't know what color Wemby's hair is going to be next, but it's purple and blonde at the moment. So,
dude, I'd like to talk to that kid every day. There's another guy. It's like when you hear him talk, he's got something to say. He's funny. Great. He's engaging. He's got a ton of charisma.
They have
Keldon too.
They have such an interesting team of personalities.
Right.
It's so different than 20 years ago when they're not that there wasn't a personality, but it was muted personalities on a team. this team is just so engaging and young and just like vibrant and wanting to get out there and do things and see things and be together.
Right. They're kids, and they want to have a presence in social media, all that stuff. But again, things are different. I know Don and I are going to sound like the old men, but it's like it's hard to get that and see that when there's 50 reporters around. You feel like you're in a stoic environment where you can't really be yourself a lot of the times.
But I remember, and Chuck, you do too. I mean, we used to do the team test and Tim's mailbag and these fun things, and Malik and Antonio Daniels and Avery and Sean and David to a certain extent, but Jack Haley and others. There's always been guys with personalities who want to do fun things. Tim's personality and the fact that he was the best player and the leader, I think, led to a quieter culture with guys doing media. But I do think with this group, with Sohan and Keldon being class clowns and Malachi being engaging and Wemby, I think we could see a resurgence of more fun stuff. So
wrapping up, putting a bow on the Spurs schedule, give me...
Yeah, we kind of went on a tangent.
I know, we kind of went off on a couple of subjects.
It's a podcast.
Yeah, I know. We're just going to talk, guys. It's fine. Rundowns don't matter. So just give me 2 minutes on briefly, just main takeaways, just to wrap it all up on Spurs schedule.
They're going to be better than a 30-win team. If I was at the Mohegan Sun last week. They didn't have a sports book, but I was gonna drop a C note on that over on 30 wins.
If you're in Massachusetts, you can just download one of the apps and you could have one in there.
I know, but I don't know how to do all that stuff. Anyway, I think they're going to be.
Talk about sounding like the old man.
I think they're going to be a 40. I think they're going to be a 40-win team. I think they're going to push the play-in, and I think I reserve the right to change that opinion in January if Victor is better than I think he's going to be as a rookie. It wouldn't surprise me if they're a 50-win team. I mean, I wouldn't if he's everything that they say he's going to be. I don't think a rookie at 19 can be that. And my other takeaway is the Nuggets coming to Austin bugs me, man.
Doesn't bug Austin fans.
Oh, no. That's right.
What about you, Chuck?
I don't know. I guess, first of all, I'd like to get to football season before we start breaking all this down. I mean, I haven't really had a chance to digest most of this, but my sense is they're going to be slow with Victor. They're going to let him grow up a little bit, both mentally and physically. I don't think they're going to do exactly like what they did when Tim was playing, which was fairly early. It's like he's the focal point. We're going to build everything around him. I don't think that's going to happen initially, so... I would be like Don, though. I mean, if I was a betting man, and I am not, I would definitely take the over. I mean, but this goes back to what we said a month ago. I think this league is waiting to be had, just top to bottom. I mean, there's a couple of teams I think that, I would worry about late in the year, but in a playoff situation, there ain't that many of them, to be honest with you.
I think that this season can be, as I look at it right now, is going to be described as one word, and that's frustrating. Frustrating for Spurs fans, really, because I think they're going to want to see him all 6 games in those 9 nights, and they're not going to. You're going to have him taking a couple days off. You're probably not going to have him playing back-to-backs all the time. You're probably not going to have him playing a whole road trip. I mean, they're going to go slow with him, and I think Spurs fans and national media and everything, like when he sits out one of these nationally televised games, people are going to be pissed. But it's going to happen probably.
Oh, yeah, it's going to happen.
Because they don't give a crap about the nationally televised games sometimes. Like, they sat, what was that game where they played against the Heat a couple of years ago where they sat literally everybody on the team?
Well, I think they've changed the rules on some of that, so they're going to have to be a little more frugal with how they go about it.
That's how I'm kind of just thinking about it.
He will have his nights off. There's no doubt.
I think he plays 70 games.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I do.
70?
I mean... Look, the reason they managed Tim Duncan was because he was old and he had bad knees. Same with Tony and Manu. David Robinson, Tim Duncan played 75, 80 games his first 10 years.
That was like a lifetime ago. that was a different game that they were playing then.
I think Keldon, Devin, all those guys played 60, 70 games last year if they weren't tanking on purpose. I think they're a young team. I think they're going to play a lot. Now, I do think they're going to rest him. He's not going to play 6 games in 9 days. I think he'll take a game or two off here and there. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I think he's going to play more than you guys think.
All right, so that's Spurs.
He's 19.
Yeah, and he's 7 foot.
That's
however,
right.
and they're trying to
he's
keep
good,
him healthy.
And he's the franchise.
They're trying to keep him healthy.
I'd like to see him play every day too. It's just not the reality, especially not here.
He played every day last year.
It's not the reality in the game that they play right now. In today's NBA, it's just not the reality. Even if you are the healthiest person in the world, you play 70 games. I don't know how the new rules are going to play into that with the CBA and need 65 games to qualify for awards and whatnot, and all pro teams and whatever else there is, or all NBA teams. I'm thinking of football already with all pro. But
so that should be the over-under on number of games on Victor, right?
64 and a half, Don. Over or under?
On how many games he plays?
Yes, 64 and a half.
He plays 70.
I say it's between 65 and 70.
All right, I'll take the under on 64 and a half.
Okay.
I don't think they care.
Okay.
Let's get to the Cowboys real quick. They are leaving Oxnard. They just had their last padded practice yesterday in Oxnard, California, where they've been handling their training camp for the last 3 weeks. So far in the preseason game and in the training camp, what is your guys' good? Like, let's do good, bad, and the ugly here. What's your good as a takeaway from the Cowboys training camp so far?
I kind of like the competitive nature of this. I kind of like that it looks like two different teams, at least aesthetically, that, they could be like the old Looney Tunes cartoons where you have Sam and Fred, the sheepdog, and Wile E. Coyote walking to work. Hey, Sam. Hey, Fred. They're walking, talking to each other, and then they punch the clock, and they go kick the crap out of each other for 8 hours, and they hug and kiss on the way home, and they punch out. And that's what this looks like a little bit to me, but I kind of like it. I mean, it's been a little saucy, as J-Ron Curse said the other day. Or did he say spicy? I can't remember. I think it was spicy. But
spicy.
It just
saucy.
It kind of livened things up here towards the end of training camp.
My good 11 in that defense. They've dominated the offense.
Micah is
like
so
if
good.
I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm halfway worried about how bad this offense is. I don't think they are. I think the defense is that good. Dominated Dak. Dak doesn't get a pass off in these live periods.
Micah is just literally wrecking practice. They have to tell him to stop so they can get plays off.
Throwing all pros around like rag dolls. Just throwing Tyron Smith to the ground.
I think if I was a betting man, which I am, a defensive player of the year looks really good for Micah Parsons.
Man.
Like he's a
and they're
wrecking
coming
ball.
at all angles, 90s over there. They shored up the secondary with Gilmore.
There was a couple of days ago. I don't remember which day it was. They were running 11 on 11, and they had DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons on the same side. I don't know how you put enough offensive linemen over there to stop that one. That's just insane.
They're coming from everywhere.
Yeah,
and the big kid from Michigan, he looked really Mozzie. He looked really good in the last 2 days. Of
immovable object or irresistible force. Not sure, but it's one or the other.
We talked a couple of weeks ago. Is this a historically great defense, or can it be? And I'm starting to think like maybe they look so good.
But they're putting these things out there. They're talking, and then they're backing it up. But this talk is getting spread around like wildfire on the internet, right? Every other team is seeing it, and it might be bulletin board material, but they don't care. And I think there's a certain power behind that if you can get to the point where you literally can back up everything that you're saying, or at least there's a belief, you may have something.
I think the good for me is the rookies. The rookies have looked really good. Mozzie is unbelievable. And literally every time he's interviewed, he's like, what do you like about the game? I just want to hit people.
Right.
I just want to go hit people right now. Yeah. That's all I want to do. And then DeMarvion Overshone has looked amazing. Deuce Vaughn has looked really good. Schoonmaker is getting rave reviews out of practice. Like this whole rookie class sounds like they're taking a step they haven't even started their first season yet, which is exactly what you want to hear if you are a Cowboys fan. All right, give me the bad, Don. We'll start with you this time. Give me the bad.
Kicker. Real bad.
I was going to put that as ugly, but yeah, the bad's good too.
Kicker's bad. They got to get. They can't start the season like this.
I think Mike McCarthy yesterday was like, "Do you see his kickoffs? His kickoffs are really good." And I was like, "Yeah, kickoffs aren't really what we're worried about here."
Yeah, I think that's bad. I don't know. That's about it. That's about it.
What about you, Chuck?
I mean, that obviously is glaring, and I would have said that too. I still really don't know what they're doing with Cavante Turpin. I mean, I just don't see it. And they're giving him every opportunity to win, the 4th or 5th wide receiver position. And maybe he's earned the right to have that. And maybe I'm just pulling for Dennis Houston to kind of, win the roster spot. I don't know.
Well,
it's hard to
Homer.
know because it's like, watching the first preseason game, Matthew, I mean, he's back there 2 return kicks. That's why he's on the team. Coughs it up. He dropped a huge ball that was right in his hands early on in the game. And a huge catch at the end too. But and then you watch him run and you see how he gets open and you can understand why the Cowboys would want this guy on the field. But I just don't know if at this point, there's probably something there you can work with, but to have a roster spot, to me, it would seem like he would be the kind of guy you would want to have on the practice squad to try to tweak some things and see if he can make a leap as a smooth receiver.
Cavante Turpin screams to me someone who is going to bounce around the league and be a really good, speedy kick returner and probably not much else. Like, there's a lot of those guys. Trendon Holiday is one and Isaiah McKenzie's another one that kind of latch onto a team as a kick returner, try and make it as a receiver, and then just need a new change of scenery sometimes. And then they go and maybe a new offensive mind can figure out how to use them a little bit better. I don't know how McCarthy wants to use him, if he's trying to get him on those jet sweeps or if he's trying to get him out in open space or whatever.
Probably
but
all of the above.
it seems like they're just trying to convert him into a slot receiver, and it doesn't seem like that role is taking for him.
Yeah, and he grips too. I mean, like when he screws up, you can see him. He's in his own head at this point with a lot of it. I think he's feeling pressure to try to make this happen, because how many times do we have to hear McCarthy talk about guys have got to do more than one thing on this team? If you want to get to where you want to go, you can't be just the guy that is just doing.
Well, they got
this.
some other guys. Deuce could return kicks.
Right?
Yeah, and he did, and he probably
And
will.
they're going to look at some other guys too this week too. So I don't know. I think that's just one of those things we're going to have to wait and see what plays out. But to me, it's intriguing.
So for me, the bad is the offensive line, and I think we all watched what happened on Saturday. It's probably going to get better now that our guy Zach Martin's back. However, the offensive line hasn't looked great, and that offense isn't going to do anything if the offensive line isn't back to form top 10 offensive line. So they haven't looked great, and I'm a little concerned about that. And for me, the ugly was the kicker. I don't see any scenario where they go into the season with Brandon Aubrey as their kicker. I don't see any way that happens.
Shame on them if they do.
Well, like opening night against the Giants, imagine them losing because Brandon Aubrey misses an extra point or a kick. Like, McCarthy is going to get annihilated on Monday or Sunday night. Yeah. Like, can you even imagine if that happened?
Yeah, and I mean, he'd be the guy to blame at this point. I mean, this is a front office, and I hate to say bean counting, but that's what this is. I mean, they've got this guy in there because they can pay him the league minimum. But I mean, at some point you got to believe. Like, you guys are having some kicker issues, right, in Denver. I mean, wouldn't you want a Mason Crosby that is kicked outdoors, is kicked in the cold, is kicked in the snow? I mean, at some point, these guys asking price, I would think him and, Robbie Gould.
Are they both still out there?
Yep.
Available?
Yep.
Hey, it's all right. The Broncos have Brett Maher. So, the ugly I have is the kicker. So what about you guys? What's your ugly for the training camp so far?
Ugly kicker. Can
You just really hate Brandon Aubrey.
Can it be bad and ugly?
Yes.
I don't have an ugly.
Yeah.
Zach Martin holdout.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is
unnecessary, and then saying that he deserved. I hate that word.
He was
Dude got $9 million. How can you say it's unnecessary? It was necessary for him to get $9 million.
Yeah,
it was starting to get ugly.
Yeah.
Like after Jerry's comments and all that stuff, I felt like it was starting to get ugly.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear McCarthy dodge the question, like he was asked, were you starting to worry if he'd be ready for week 1? And he said, I don't talk in hypotheticals, but you could tell by the way he was kind of chuckling about it that I think there was some concern. And, good on Jerry and good on Zach for meeting face-to-face, I guess. Luckily, the team was in Dallas for this to end up happening because, I don't know, I'm curious to hear Jerry's end of this or his side of the story, how this all turned out. Because, once again, Jerry El Foldo.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys want to see from the preseason game against the Seahawks?
Health.
Performances, Chuck. What do you want to see?
I just don't want to see anybody get banged up, man. You're looking at these training camp reports every day and somebody going down. I guess, the Turpin thing is, are we going to see anything that resolves that question? I don't know that we will this week. Maybe we will. And, and can the offensive line improve?
Yeah, I'm just looking at receiver battle too, for those backup spots. I just want to. I know he's not going to play, but I want to see Michael Parsons play football more. I love that.
So you're gonna have to wait till Sunday night for that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
All right. Last thing before we get out, I have two. It's hard to get a focus group like this. I have two men here that have been married for a very long time. So I got to ask a marriage question to the newly married guy. Hypothetically, if either of you guys were to say be married for 8 months and lose your wedding ring, what would your wife say? And what would you do?
What kind of ring is it?
It's a tungsten ring. It's like $400 or $500, something like that.
Oh gosh, what does it look like? What does it look like?
Hypothetically, it's black. It's black with a little ring in the middle. Like it's black with like a silver.
So
blackish
it's
ring.
not like it can be duplicated easily.
I mean, it could probably go buy another one easily.
Hopefully, your lovely wife, when you guys walk down the aisle,
hypothetically,
she knew,
guys.
Well, that this person would have known that something like this is possible. I've lost mine a couple of times, and I got the eye roll. So, I mean, I think my wife probably knew that at some point it was probably going to happen, and then it'll probably happen again.
It's not my original, and I think this has happened a couple of times. This one right here looks platinum, right?
Yep.
Not $25 Walmart.
So
$25.
So
Nice.
I'm wearing this. This is my backup ring. I lost my ring at the gym yesterday. I took it off. I put it in my pocket.
Oh man,
not in there anymore.
Here's the other thing you can do. My brother tattooed his on his arm.
Nope.
No,
What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a silicone one.
Marriage is not supposed to hurt to that degree, my friend.
It's permanent. It's permanent.
It's all right. Jordan already knows. I lost it. I went in to change, and I was in my pocket. I was like, where the hell did it go? I was on my way to work, and the gym's 2 minutes away. So I was driving to work. On that short drive, I was like, the hell's my ring? So I went into my bag. It's not in there. I've looked everywhere. So I called Jordan right away, and I was like, so I think I need to go to K.
Well, either that or maybe, with any luck, there'll be some kind-hearted human that will return your ring to the front desk, and maybe you can find it in the lost and found. I'd hold out hope for that because there are more good people out there than you know.
Isn't it weird, though? My wife, I've probably had this one for 10 years. She knows it's a $25 ring from Walmart. But there are days where I'm going out to the garage to go to work. Bye, honey. Oh, I don't have my ring. And I have to go back inside. I always keep it in the same little tray in the kitchen when I go to sleep. There's that panic, even though it's a $25 ring, that I know that if that's the thing I lost compared to my, I don't know, $150 running shoes, the running shoes, she would care less if I ordered a new pair on Amazon.
It's the symbol.
But it's the $25, it's the symbol. It's like, I can go to Walmart and pick one up on my way in if I lost it. But no, if you even hint that it might be missing, there's that stare like, excuse me? You
You got the look.
I didn't want that stare. I was like, I lost it, and I was like, oh God, I want to crawl in a hole right now.
No.
I wasn't wearing a ring for 8 hours, and it felt like something on my hand was missing. And I've only been married, and I've only been wearing one for 8 months.
That's a good sign, bro. And you know what? You should get kudos for even having it in your pocket at the gym. Like if I'm going to do anything that requires any kind of physical activity, I take it off because I've lost it on a softball field before.
Really?
That ain't fun when you got 18 people out there looking for something and.
See, I never take mine off.
Yeah. And here, I think Chuck and I are most agreement on this. Dude, you have won the wedding lottery as far as upgrading.
I know.
For you.
You're telling me, man.
So you just say yes, ma'am, whenever she says
Why
anything.
do you think I was afraid?
You say yes, ma'am, and do how high?
Yeah, I didn't want her mad at me, guys. All right.
I bet she wasn't. I bet she was nice and understanding.
She was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, what do you say in these situations? And I was like, I don't know either. That's why I'm asking Chuck and Don.
What a cool response, right?
Like I said.
I know you didn't do it intentionally.
She got mad. She got mad later. It was fine. Quick.
The best part is she'll be mad 10 years from now about it. Something will come up.
Yeah,
You
after-
remember that time that you lost your ring at the gym? Right? No?
They have memories like elephants.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, you know
really
what?
looking
I
forward
shouldn't-
to it.
I shouldn't say that about Jordan. That's just been my experience. But
She'll
my
prob-
wife puts up with a lot.
She'll
so
probably do it.
How long
But
you been married, Chuck?
34 years.
Seems like.
How many rings?
34 minutes.
How many?
Underwater. No. No.
How
my
many,
wife now
how many
tells
rings
that
have you
too.
gone through, Chuck?
No, I've only gone through 2.
Okay.
Me too. I'm on.
But,
I'm on
yeah.
ring number 2.
Okay, so with the next one, I can't lose that one. I got
For
to
another
outlast
30
34
years,
years. Dang it. I really upset the curve here. All right, so quick reminder, you can get this podcast.
I'm going to take the under
I love you,
on that.
Melissa. I love you, Melissa. I love you, Melissa. I don't want this to turn into a hate fest because that's been the beautiful
It was
thing
a
about
joke.
34
It was
years.
a great joke.
Yes, is that you can actually grow through all of this nonsense and shenanigans too and be better than you were when you started.
I love you, Jordan.
We love you too, Jordan, just not in the same kind of way. You put up with a lot, we know.
We love you too, Wemby. All right, quick reminder, you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. The YouTube version will have some video elements, sound bites, some of the some other video plugged in along the way. Please subscribe, download, rate, review, do all that good stuff. Give us a 5-star rating and some feedback. Feedback is a gift. Chuck and I will be back on Monday. Don is off that day, so he will not be there. And then we have high school football starting up next week, fellas. Can't wait. TNL next Thursday. So we'll be back next week on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast.